This is bad. Stories like this are why you should not underestimate anyone. Don't look at someone and go, oh, she's just a 14-year-old girl. What can she possibly do? Well, you're about to find out what a 14-year-old girl can do if she don't get her way. Around the 29th and 30th of October 2023, a lecturer from the University of Technology in Minna was found dead in her home in Baiko area of Minna. There were stab wounds all over her body, and it was said her throat was also slit. The victim, who goes by the name of Dr. Fumilayo Adefolalu, was believed to be living by herself when this horrible incident happened because nothing has been said about her husband or her children. And it was on the 29th of October that her friends and church members discovered her lifeless body. According to what was said, her colleagues were said to have been trying to reach out to her on the mobile phone, trying to get her online, but they were unable to. She wasn't taking her calls, she wasn't responding to her texts, she didn't even show up to church. And that was when they decided to pay her a visit in her home, and upon that visitation, the gruesome discovery was made. When the police visited the scene, it was said they found 2 knives that were believed to have been used on her and a broken stool that they also believed was used to strike her. Her body was found in her pool of blood with marks all over it, along with the clothes that was stained with blood. At this point, they knew she had been murdered and killed by someone. That someone was who they were about to find out, because I don't think anyone was going to believe that the person who did it was capable of doing so. Before we continue, guys, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and also turn on notification button so whenever there is a new video, you'll be the first to get notified. Immediately, Dr. Fumilayo's body was discovered. An investigation started. The police were asking the neighbors around what they might know about it, if they knew she had a fight with anyone, if they saw anything or saw anyone leave her apartment days before. Because when they actually got to her apartment and discovered her body, it seemed pretty fresh, which meant whoever did it just did it. Either the day before or possibly earlier that day her body was discovered. So it was still very soon. It wasn't like her body was found weeks later like we usually see in such scenarios, where the body will be found days later after the neighbors start perceiving decomposing smell. It wasn't like that, because if it was in that case, I'm sure it might have been difficult for any neighbor to recollect. But given how recent it seemed that she had been killed, it was very ripe for the police to get the answers that they needed. And it's not clear who tipped them off. After asking questions around, they were able to trace a former house help that used to live with her, a 14-year-old teenager by the name of Joy Afekafe, who lived in another town in Minna. And the moment they took Joy in, she did not waste time to confess. She did not deny. It's not clear what they had seen, but I'm guessing if she was an adult, she would have probably denied a little bit. But when Joy was taken into custody, she was asked and she confessed that yes, she took part in the killing of the deceased lecturer. And you would think this is one straightforward story. Well, it actually gets a bit worse in the details, because you're about to be irritated and annoyed by the extent a child can go to do evil. So it turned out that Joy was hired by the late lecturer to work as a maid in her home. But Joy was fond of stealing. She was a thief. She was kleptomaniac. She admitted that she was stealing this woman's money. And it was on a consistent basis. For someone hired for just 3 weeks, she was already showing herself. And I'm sure there were other things that Joy was doing. I'm sure there were other things that she did to this woman that she probably herself could not admit. I'm pretty sure of that, because if the lecturer was alive, she would most likely say more, but she isn't. So Joy claimed that she was fond of stealing the woman's money, and in just the 3 weeks she was hired, Dr. Fumilayo got fed up and asked her to leave. And Joy did not like it. For some weird reason, Joy felt entitled to this woman's home and money. For some reason, she felt like she belonged in her home to keep working for her and to keep stealing from her. And after she was laid off, Joy went, back to her community, met her classmates, some of her friends, and explained what had happened. And in her explanation, she said when she told her friends that the woman fired her, they got angry and asked to follow her to the woman's house. I would have, assumed that if there was any reason Joy needed to go back to this woman's house, is to, especially with a group of guys or with a backup, is to collect her pay or her salary or something. But that was not the case. Even though that was the case, it wasn't said that that was the case. So when this girl, Joy, and her friends decided to pay Dr. Fumilayo a visit, they went in a motorcycle, they knocked at the gate, and it was Dr. Fumilayo that opened the gate. When upon she saw the former house help and the 2 extra guests that she came with, teenagers. And I think if Dr. Fumilayo had known better, she would not have let them enter into her house. she would not have let them enter into her compound. I will say this. I also want to assume that if she saw that those two guys were adults, were grown men, she would not have let them into her house. And this is why I keep saying there is nothing, like, no one should be underestimated. Don't look at a 14-year-old girl and say, what is she capable of? Don't look at a small boy and think that they are not capable of doing the worst. Because when these people went to meet this woman, they knocked at the gate, it's unclear the personnel that they came with. I want to assume that they came with the intention or the impression to apologize to this woman. And she most likely brought those two boys to come and help her beg. That is the pretense that they came with, to beg her to forgive her and maybe take her back. Because I don't see why else Dr. Funmilayo, who was not expecting this girl to come, would open her main gate and let these three kids into her house. Because I don't know why else. Maybe she thought they had come to beg and apologize. And she wanted to give the girl a chance and listen to her. And when they eventually went inside, the evil started. Because they didn't come to apologize. They didn't come to beg for forgiveness. They didn't come to ask her to take Joy back. They came to steal and rob from her. Obviously, that was what Joy was doing. And they thought, okay, this would make sense. This woman seems to have more. And since the woman had kicked her out, the best way to continue robbing from her was to pretty much break into her house under false pretense. Somewhere along the discussion with the woman and the kids per se, she was hit, and eventually, they stabbed her and killed her, stole money, stole her valuables, her phone and wallet, even stole a battery from her vehicle in the car. And that was how they left. And this was done the day before her body was discovered, on the 28th. The two friends who Joy had mentioned, Walex and Smart, are currently still on the run, according to what we're hearing. As at the time of making this video, the two other boys had not been caught. So as at this time, only Joy had been caught and arrested, and she's the one giving this confession, which is ironic because in her confession, she's spinning it on the boys. She's spinning it on one of the boys, if not two of them. She's putting it on them. According to her, she claimed that they went back to meet her, and all of a sudden, one of the boys suggested that they had to kill her. If not, she will remember them and report them. And she is claiming that it was one of the other boys that did the killing, citing she doesn't have any hand in it. Which is interesting because if these boys are eventually caught and arrested, they too would also have to speak their piece. And I'm sure they would also want to point fingers at the other ones. These are kids. They all like to snitch. Oh, you did it, you follow too. Now let me do it now. All of us do it. This is pretty much what we might most likely hear when these kids are caught. Because right now, Joy is acting as though it was not her intention to have this woman killed. But I'm sure it was her intention to go and rob and steal from this woman. That is what I feel. So she is just as complicit as the other boys she claimed directly stabbed and killed her. Because for me, for a young child or a teenager to be capable of going into the kitchen to get a knife to kill a grown adult, these are evil children. These are kids from the pits of hell. This is the devil right here. And I'm sure Joy knew what her friends were capable of. Joy knew why she chose those two boys to come with her there. Why didn't she bring her brothers or her uncles? She knew who these two boys were and knew what they were capable of. Because in her confession, she's acting or claiming that she did not know that one of them was with a knife. I'm sure she knew. And the other one went to get a knife from the kitchen. And her story to me, I don't believe she did not mean to. I believe she meant to. I believe she was totally aware. And I believe if those boys are caught and arrested, they will also testify that Joy was fully involved in killing this woman and was aware that she would be killed. I mean, what did she think would happen if she come to steal from her and go back living her life? What did she think would happen? I'm sure she knew, she was aware. I just hope the boys are caught, and hopefully soon. My thing now is that since that they are young kids, since that they are minors for the most part, will their face be televised? Would they be mentioned as wanted? Because if nothing is said, these boys who are capable of doing this are also capable of running away and going as far as they can. I don't know why Joy did not run. Obviously, she's a girl. She's at a disadvantage because she still has to go home to her parents. But the boys, they look like waywards. They look like thugs. They look like people who really don't care about anyone else but themselves. It's just heartbreaking that this woman had to lose her life because she thought less of a teenage girl. Because for me, if someone is capable of stealing, why even open the gate for them back into your house? Like, anyhow, I'm sure she also must have been deceived under the pretense of apology. And she, being the kind-hearted woman that she is, opened the door and expected that, okay, maybe this kid really wants a second chance. Maybe she can talk to her and teach her about what is wrong about stealing, because I can imagine she being that kind of a person. She's a lecturer. These people love to teach. She probably saw her coming back with her two friends who are seeming to apologize as an opportunity to teach them and educate them on why they shouldn't do what they do, not knowing that these generation of kids are on another level. They don't care about advice. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They feel like they know it all. And this is what happens when they think they know it all. And this is why I don't even mess with young people. This is why I don't underestimate children. This is why I don't underestimate teenagers. Once you are a grown person that can speak and communicate and you know what's good and bad, I don't even want to give that chance, because I will be sleeping with my both eyes open. I don't trust these ones. They are capable of the worst. Anyhow, guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about this story. Do you think Joy did not directly take part in stabbing this woman, as she's claiming? Do you think it's only the boys that did it? Or do you think she took part in it and she's just conveniently blaming it on the boys, given the fact that they've not been caught and she's just trying to make herself lesser of the three evils? Let me know your thoughts.